On a morning in 1092, the most powerful man of the Seljuk Empire, Vizier Nizam al-Mulk, the right hand of Sultan Malik Shah, was stabbed by a dervish who entered his tent. The assassin was captured, tortured, but not a single word escaped his lips. Only a frozen glimmer of faith shone in his eyes. This assassination was the first message of the most systematic fear empire history had ever seen. A message that would prove victories unattainable by swords could be won through fear and psychology. Today, I will tell you the story of the Middle Ages' most mysterious organization, the Assassins, an invisible network that was everywhere, numerically few, but with colossal impact. Hassan-i Sabbah, born in Iran in the 1050s, educated in Isfahan, an intelligent preacher belonging to the Ismaili faith. In his youth, he traveled to Cairo as a guest of the Fatimid Caliph, but became disillusioned with the internal conflicts there. Upon his return, he had a plan in mind. If I cannot fight with great armies, I will create a great impact with a small force. In 1090, Hassan-i Sabbah seized Alamut Castle, perched on an almost unreachable cliff in the Elburz Mountains of northern Iran. According to legend, he took the castle not through siege or battle, but through intelligence and patience. First, he sent preachers to the region, converted the people to his faith, then activated his men inside the castle. One morning, the castle's owner awoke to find that most of his own men had pledged allegiance to Hassan-i Sabbah. Without bloodshed, Alamut became the heart of the assassins. Alamut was not just a castle, but also a symbol. Built on peaks like an eagle's nest, surrounded on all sides by cliffs, this structure was unreachable for enemies. Hassan-i Sabbah transformed it into a training center, a library, a production facility, and a control center. According to sources, he established a great library within the castle, conducted astronomical observations, and taught mathematics and philosophy. But most importantly, he trained loyal warriors here. Alamut's geographical location demonstrated his strategic genius. It dominated trade routes while remaining protected. When enemy armies arrived, they could be routed in narrow passes. And here, Hassan-i Sabbah's true genius emerged. He didn't train armies, he trained assassins. The assassins' most well-known feature was their elite assassins, whom they called Fedayeen. These men were trained for years, motivated by religious faith, and conditioned to sacrifice even their own lives to reach their targets. According to historians' records, a Fedayeen could wait years to approach his target, disguising himself as a servant, guard, or even an advisor. The power of assassination lay not in the person killed, but in the fear it created. The murder of Nizam al-Mulk created a shock effect in the Seljuk palace. If the empire's most powerful vizier could be killed in his own tent, who was safe? This was Hassan-i Sabbah's plan, with a small number of high-profile assassinations to place an entire region under psychological siege. The assassins turned assassination into an art form. Their targets were usually killed openly, in broad daylight, in crowded places. This was deliberate. The message was clear. We can find you wherever we want, whenever we want. A Crusader chronicle records that a Fedai killed Crusader Prince Raymond II in church while he was praying. In 1192, King Conrad I of Jerusalem was stabbed by two assassins in the middle of the street in Tyre. Historians estimate that the assassins carried out approximately 50 to 70 notable assassinations in total. The number may seem small, but the impact was tremendous, because each assassination was a warning. kings and sultans preferred to sit at the negotiating table with the assassins. Some paid them tribute, others formed alliances with them. The fear created by the assassins was as effective a weapon as armies. Seljuk Sultan Sanjar besieged Alamut in 1126, but one morning he found a dagger stuck in his pillow, aimed at his heart. Not actually pierced, just a note. "If we had wished, this dagger would have been in your heart." Sanjar lifted the siege and made peace with the assassins. This event appears in historical sources and is one of the best examples of Hassan-i Sabbah's strategic intelligence. Sultans and kings began to live in constant paranoia. They could no longer trust their close guards, because the assassins could work by someone's side for years, gain their trust, and then wait for the right moment. This psychological warfare was far more exhausting than traditional warfare. Crusader leaders also got their share of this fear. The rulers of the Kingdom of Jerusalem preferred to establish diplomatic relations with the assassins. Some Crusader chronicles even write that the assassins made secret agreements with Christian leaders, establishing mutually beneficial relationships. Fear was used not only to control enemies, but also to gain allies. What was interesting was that the assassins never used random violence. Their targets were always strategic. They did not attack ordinary people. This made them appear in the eyes of the public not as a cruel gang, but as a disciplined force. Hassan-i Sabbah used violence as a tool, not as an end. The most famous legend told about the assassins is the Garden of Paradise story. According to legend, Hassan-i Sabbah would drug young recruits, then take them to a specially prepared garden filled with every pleasure: beautiful women, wine, fruit, and music. The young men would believe this was paradise. Then they would be drugged again and brought back and told, "The paradise you saw will be yours forever if you become a martyr." This story appears in Marco Polo's travelogue and in the writings of many Crusader chroniclers. However, modern historians view this story with skepticism, because this narrative appears to have been written mostly by the assassins' enemies to defame them. Archaeological studies conducted at Alamut found no evidence of such a garden. Moreover, the Ismaili faith was based on quite sophisticated theology. It was not composed of naive people who could be deceived with simple paradise promises. So where did the assassins get this name? The word hashishi comes from the Arabic word hashish, meaning cannabis. Western sources claim that the Fidayeen used drugs before their missions. However, Ismaili sources categorically deny this. According to them, this name was merely a derogatory nickname. Their real name was Fidayeen, or Nizari Ismailis. There is no concrete historical evidence of drug use. On the contrary, it is known that the Fidayeen were motivated by years of disciplined training and religious faith. Another legend is Hassan-i Sabbah's saying, "Nothing is true, everything is permitted." This phrase is used in popular culture and even in a modern video game series. However, there is no historical record that this phrase belongs to Hassan-i Sabbah. This phrase was probably invented by European writers in the 19th century. Hassan-i Sabbah's real philosophy was a deep belief system based on Ismaili theology, not nihilism. The truth is, the assassins are far more interesting than the legends. Hassan-i Sabbah lived in Alamut for 34 years and is said to have left his castle only twice. He governed his entire empire through letters and a communication network. He executed his own son for indiscipline. He was known for his passion for books and knowledge. It is said he kept thousands of manuscripts in his library. The story of the assassins ended in 1256 when the Mongols captured Alamut. Hulagu Khan's armies besieged the castle and burned the great library. Hundreds of years of knowledge, science, and philosophy perished in flames. However, the legacy of the assassins reached into the modern world. The word assassination is derived directly from the word hashishi. This term, used in European languages, is proof of the deep mark they left. The assassins were pioneers of asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, and strategic target selection. Modern special forces and intelligence organizations that operate with small numbers but maximum impact perhaps carry the strategic legacy of the assassins. Hassan-i Sabbah shook empires without building armies. He was not a lawless leader. He was the architect of a system that created its own laws. Faith, discipline, loyalty, and fear. These four elements created history's most effective secret network. Today, Alamut Castle is a ruin in Iran. But in its walls, the echoes of that silent power that once terrified the world's most powerful leaders can still be heard. History teaches us that the source of power is not always numbers. Sometimes one dagger is more effective than 1,000 swords. Sometimes fear can defeat armies. Don't forget to subscribe to Medieval Archive channel so you won't miss these captivating stories from history's dark corners. In the next video, we will discover another secret of the Middle Ages together.